What are the yogic superpowers called Siddhis? Have yogis throughout the centuries possessed supernormal abilities such as levitation, materialization, or telekinesis? How can you achieve them? My name is Aleksander, and in this episode we shall focus on the Siddhis, which are the yogic superpowers. There are 8 major or special Siddhis and 64 minor. And Siddhis are the yogic superpowers which cannot be achieved voluntarily or by intention. They just happen as you raise your consciousness and as you achieve higher levels of your consciousness. And you can attain those siddhis, for example, by birth. For instance, in yogic tradition there is this belief in reincarnation, and if in your previous lifetimes you were very advanced spiritually and you did very good work on the spiritual level, you can have these siddhis at birth achieved, and you can even after your birth, when you're a child, have those siddhis. You can also achieve those siddhis by, for example, altering your states of consciousness either by meditation or by other means, for example by hallucinogens or drugs. And the higher your levels of consciousness, the more siddhis, the more powerful in those siddhis you are. And in the samadhi state, which is the highest state of these altered states of consciousness in meditation, according to the yogic tradition, you've got the most potential when it comes to siddhis. Or also you can achieve siddhis by the so-called tapas, meaning austerities. So for example, if you choose the harder path of your life, but which is more advanced spiritually and which is more beneficial for you and others spiritually, then you can also achieve those siddhis. And let's start with those 8 major siddhis, which are: first, the ability to see infinitely small objects, even microscopic world, and to be also infinitely small, which is called the Anima Siddhi. The second one is the opposite of being infinitely large and having ability to see the entire galaxies, star systems, and universes, which is called the Mahima Sidhi. Next is Anima Siddhi, which is becoming wireless or lighter than air. Then Prapti Siddhi, which means that there is no limitation of distance and you can travel everywhere at will. Then there is Prakama Siddhi, which is ability to materialize things out of thin air. Then is Isittva Siddhi, which is ability to create and destroy anything, and which is the ability to control all of the creation and destruction in the universe. Then it is the Kama-Avasayitva, which is complete satisfaction and freedom from any desire. And then are the minor siddhis, which are 64. And those minor siddhis include many supernatural powers, for instance, ability to levitate, or the ability to have psychokinesis, or to influence others mentally and to communicate telepathically. But are those siddhis just mere superstitions, or can we actually explain them in the scientific terms? Actually, according to the yogic and also Hindu belief system, everything is consciousness, and everything that we perceive as the material world is just an illusion called Maya. And every separation of consciousness, for example, between living entities like you and me, is just an illusion, and there exists simply one consciousness which actually wanted to just separate itself and experience it as separated. And if this was true, we can even explain in scientific terms why those abilities can really happen. Because actually throughout the centuries there were many reports of yogis actually having those siddhis and actually, for example, levitating or materializing objects. So when it comes to all the siddhis, for example, if everything as in the Hindu and Yogic tradition is consciousness, then everything is just the visualization of consciousness. It is also connected to the Plato's ideas, the belief that there is this world of ideas in consciousness and those ideas manifest here on earth. So actually everything according to this belief system, which is called the philosophy of idealism, is possible because everything is consciousness and everything is just the imagination of consciousness and everything is an illusion. So there are no limits when it comes to, for example, the laws of physics, and actually consciousness chooses what is possible and what not. So for example, the global consciousness of humanity, the belief systems of humanity can tell us what is possible for humanity and what not. And for example, some hidden superpowers in us can be actually concealed because, for example, the global consciousness of humanity does not believe in it. And there are many evidence in, for example, parapsychology of this global consciousness and that the consciousness can influence the material world. And for example, the parapsychological studies of the random number generators called RNG actually achieved very clear evidence that the global consciousness really influenced our world. And for example, during the major world events, the consciousness of humanity could actually influence these random number generators, which were generating, for example, 0 and 1s in random quantities, and according to those randomness there should be just 50-50% 1-to-1 ratio of those 0s and 1s. But actually when it came to those major events in the human history, for example, because it was measured in the modern times, for example, some Olympics or some political events, the global consciousness actually changed this ratio of 0s to 1 of those random number generators, thus showing us that the global consciousness can influence the outcome of those random number generators, and thus the global consciousness is really affecting the material world. Also, when it comes, for example, to the ability to materialize everything, it is actually within the possible laws of physics, because, for example, according to the Einstein's famous theorem, the E equals mc squared, when we just rearrange the terms, it means that the mass is nothing more than accumulation of energy. So if, for example, the yogis could have really focused their energy or on something, for example, they want to materialize, they really could have done it, because matter, the material world, is only the accumulation of energy. So they could have accumulated their own energy, their own potential of focus to actually materialize everything. So as we see, when it comes to the consciousness and its ability to influence the matter, everything is possible. We just need to rearrange our belief systems and just see that everything may be possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, don't forget to check out my channel, subscribe to it, and like this video. And that's all for today. Thank you, and to the next video. Goodbye.